They said you were the best in the parsec.
Welcome to
Parsec Passion,
a podcast about Disney plus Star Wars television shows. My name's Bubba, and with me, as always, is someone people will only listen to if they're cuffed to a chair. It's Catfish!
Oh, damn, Bubba. That is cold, but not as cold as that ocean water is if you go in without any trunks on.
Shrinkage.
Bubba, we're here to talk about Season 1, Episode 6, The Acolyte. Teach / corrupt. As we all know, the corrupt has to do with soul.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you're going to teach and I'm going to corrupt. One of us has to do one of the two things on today's podcast. On a distant island, unsettling questions about identity and destiny arise. Episode 6, Catfish, was the first in the series not to include a death of a character. So what do you say about episode 6?
No one gone.
No one. They all survived this week.
Damn,
as we always do.
Bubba, it was... Yeah. If we want to have this show last to the end of the first season, we are going to have to stop. We're going to have to cut down on the deaths.
On this week's Parsec Passion podcast, we're going to be doing our classic things, our Himbo moments of the week. And boy, there are going to be a lot to choose from this week. We're going to pick a Jedi or a person in real life who we want on May's kill list. We're going to have the Han Solo comedy moment of the week. And we're going to have a Double H.
Double H?
Helmet hate off, where we talk about the Star Wars helmets and which one you do not want to wear. Perhaps we saw one in this episode with very tiny eye slots. It's sensory deprivation, visual sensation, not so much. And of course, our good buddy Double M Matt Murdock is going to be doing his musical breakdown of the incredible creeping score as our characters enter darkness.
There's some lightness in that score, too, which Double M is definitely going to talk about. All right, Bubba.
What did you give this episode 6 of The Acolyte?
I gave it 8 out of 10 triple Bs.
Triple Bs?
Yeah, that's Basil's bounce back bum rush. He tried to put the bum rush on May, and he bounced right back. I like where the story is going with Osha. We're having the mix. We're not seeing May change her mind at all, nor should she after being. Listen, I'm going to go on and on for 3 hours. You just sit there. Oh, I'm sorry. I changed you up. Okay, no worries.
That's the only way people listen to my stories is if I put them down on a table and put them in cups.
Yeah. I'm interested in whatever the F Soul is doing. I'm not down with the potential storyline of Soul being blamed. There are some other things going on, some political / maybe just corporate restructuring going back on at the home office.
Jedi about to get audited. Ooh.
Bubba, we have talked repeatedly about going back and forth between scenes. Mm-hmm. This is still happening. It's too short, and it makes it disjointed. It's not that they've moved the story forward when we come back. They've essentially cut like one decent scene into two, and it makes me not get into it. So, for example, the Keymaster says to Osha, you should learn to trust yourself.
Right.
She looks at the helmet, we cut, and then we cut back, and she's putting it back on. Bubba, that is what we call in the business one scene. Okay? Keep that scene together.
Oh, okay.
Now, in another one, Soul says to Cuffed Mate, you're going to listen, and then we cut away. Okay, we didn't get the rest of that scene in this episode at all, but still, this is the kind of thing where it's too choppy. I'm surprised we didn't have 4 scenes back on Kofar with Vernestra with like 2 lines per scene. It's taking away them chopping these scenes into smaller bits instead of adding to them. I don't know whether they think it's boring. I'm not quite sure why they're doing this.
Okay,
but it just makes it too choppy for me. So that's it.
You still win 8 out of 10, Catfish.
I gave it 8 out of 10.
Got a very specific problem that keeps happening, but 8 out of 10. Very interesting. That is fascinating. Well, Catfish, I am not going to go quite as high as you because I'm giving this episode 7 double N's out of 10.
Double N's?
Double N's are necessary nothings. The story is going where the story has been pointing out it's been pointing in this direction for weeks. Osha is going to double B break bad. That's what the story's been pointing at.
And you know why we know that is, Bubba?
Why?
Because I figured it out a few weeks ago.
Yeah, that's pretty obvious. If you got it, then, the telegraph was a bit too loud in the telegraph office. If she's going to break bad, if she's going to truly turn, we've got to see her seduced by the dark side. And that's a phrase we've heard a lot. We've never seen the seduction part of the dark side quite so blatant, but we've got to see it. So this was very necessary for the end goal of where this story's going. That said, we didn't necessarily learn new information. So that's why I call it necessary nothings. We need to see this change happen in Osha. It has to be logical. It does have to tempt her. We do need to see it. But in some ways, all the other storylines, they didn't do anything. Saul, is having this incredible, crushing effect of his life. He has had so much guilt. This actor who... the world is going to hate me for saying this. I saw Squid Game, and I kind of thought he was an okay actor. I didn't think he was great. On this show, the emotion that is coming across his face and the pain you can see Lee Jung-jae dealing with, he's great. He is really great. But story-wise, he really didn't have anything to do this episode other than, I guess finally get to the point where I made a terrible mistake. I've kind of been suppressing that terrible mistake. I'm going to own up to it. So the final thing I want to say about this episode, so there was a lot of great things in it. Let me be completely honest. And I even liked the nothingness because I need to see Osha turn. But this episode really made me think this story should have been a 2.5 hour movie. Because there are these weeks that we can watch an episode, hopefully people will binge this, but we can watch an episode and then think about it for an episode. We kind of see the telegraph that we were just talking about a bit too hard, where in a 2-hour movie, you see the telegraph and then 15 minutes later, 20 minutes later, it pays off. It doesn't feel quite as bad. So I want to know from listeners in the future. I'm reaching out to listeners in the future. I'm reaching in the world between worlds, and I'm saying, listeners, if you are able to binge this show, tell us your reaction to it. I honestly think some of my trouble with this particular episode, and maybe some of the other episodes in the past, is I just couldn't go with it. Story just couldn't flow because I got to wait a week. It's got to cut off in an odd spot. Listeners who are not listening in July of 2024, and you binge this, reach out to us and tell us what you thought of it. So 7 out of 10 for me, Catfish. Any feedback on what I just said and my thoughts on this episode?
I just want to be clear. You are not having any problem with the slow pace of Osha being seduced, right?
No. I think it needs to be this pace. I think it needs to be this pace. It's just they didn't time it so like the other storyline had much going on in it. Other than my boy Basil. Basil, there's been so much death. But if Basil is RIP at the end of this season, which I think there's at least a chance that could happen, that they could kill this cute alien creature Basil.
No.
Then if that happens, then I am going to unleash my anger, and that'll turn me to the dark side. So I hope that doesn't happen, but I could see it. It's crazy. But again, listeners into the future, if you hear me saying, how was this as a binge? Listeners right now, if you want to respond to our opinions, which are just opinions, who cares what we say? We want to know what you think. Reach out to us at PHQ on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook.com/PHQ. We want to hear from you. If you're on YouTube, go write a comment and say, oh, I agree. Oh, I don't agree. You're right, but wrong in this instance. We need to hear from you. I want to say, and I'll open up, behind the magic curtain a bit, but you can see it on YouTube. These Star Wars, there are so many Star Wars YouTube channels and podcasts that it's not like we break through and have a giant audience on this show or any Star Wars show we cover. But you guys are passionate. You are giving us more likes and more comments on YouTube than on podcasts, which we have much more viewership on. So you guys are great. We keep asking you to tell us what you think, and please, please do it.
Bubba.
Yeah.
I have said this before, but I'm saying it again.
We
are so desperate for you to add good content to this podcast that we're going to do a drawing.
Yes.
At the end of the season,
That's
and
right.
some of our listeners, anybody who makes a comment, who reposts the podcast, the comment on YouTube, anybody who calls into iHeartRadio, anybody, we've got some wonderful things got from the Star Wars celebration, Bubba, for our people who are watching on YouTube. First of all,
look at this.
Yes. Good. Let the hate flow through you. Bubba, I'll say this for you.
That's a t-shirt of Emperor Palpatine with his wonderful anger and hatred on it. It is so cute. It's the cutest Palpatine you'll ever see.
Yeah,
but he is pure evil.
All these guys, it's kind of a cute, they're all kind of cute cartoon characters. We've got Grogu in his little his little flight bassinet. We have Mando and Grogu together. Very adorable. Should be
very good.
And we have all together again.
Mando and Boba fighting like they should fight. These are all t-shirts we're going to be giving away to wonderful listeners who give us a like.
And our last one, this is going to be the top one. It's a t-shirt with Mando and it says, "I'm the best in the Parsec for Parsec Passion Podcast." These will all be given away.
Wonderful.
Very exciting.
Incredible. So once again, at WPHQ, Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Facebook, YouTube, please talk to us and let us know. One thing we do every week, Catfish, is we've been saying after an episode, we say, are you on Team May or Team Osha? Sometimes it's hard for viewers to keep track of which team the characters are on, but we want to know what team you're on. So Catfish, this week, we see Osha getting seduced by the dark side. We see May. I don't even know what to say about her. She has so much hatred for these Jedi and for Soul in particular. And yet she wouldn't just stab him in the back. There's something going on. She still has questions about what happened on Brendok. And so it's a fascinating scenario. We got Osha and May. Catfish. Which team are you on this week?
Well, but first I want to say, because last week you were like, I don't understand why May's doing this. And I'm like, well, she's going to go and attack more Jedi, where here she almost, it doesn't seem like that was really her plan, because she's like, maybe I'll just kill him now. No, I'll wait a little bit. But Bubba, it is an easy answer for me. Okay.
Let's hear it. Okay.
Let's see if you follow my logic. Okay.
Sure.
Osha is having a romantic vacation on an exotic island with the Keymaster.
Yes.
And he's just going to blather at her for hours. So I'm going to have to say 110% Team Osha this week. What about you, Bubba?
If this was The Bachelor, Osha's gone on the getaway and poor May is left back listening to the host. Yeah, that's pretty rough. I am with you, Catfish. I am on Team Osha. But maybe this is just my childhood rearing up. I think on a lot of shows I can root for the villains. I can root for the great characters. On this show, after what the show is now calling the Stranger. Yes, he was Chimere. Yes, we called him the Keymaster. All these things. The show is officially now calling his character the Stranger. What the Stranger did to Jecki and hurt us members of the Jecki Jam. What the Stranger did to Yord, and you all know I was on the Yord Horde. If Osha goes full Chimere, if she goes full Sith, I'm going to be off her team. So for right now, hey, I'm putting on the helmet, I'm eating his soup, I'm, what, his eyes are up there, forget that. If Osha wants to do that for a week, I'll be on her team. But if she goes full baddie, call me crazy. I'm going to be off her team. I don't care what Saul did. Saul could have personally killed each individual witch back at the village. I like Soul so much. I don't want what seemingly inevitable is going to happen. I don't want her to really break bad.
Bubba, this is so great because what I love here is that the show is has been leading us the whole time in a certain direction. And the direction is the Jedi have done some bad things and they have not always been righteous. And there is another way. But you and I am totally going along with that. I'm on the ride. I'm on Team Osha. Whatever, Jecki. Whatever. They're gone. He's
3-hole punched.
Look, they were so inessential that Soul was like, somebody else will pick up their bodies. I don't give a crap. Even though no one knows I'm here.
He was trying to get the civilian away from the stranger. Come on.
I cannot believe that you are going to be on Team Wimp Ass.
Once again, I just said Soul could have killed all the witches, and I'm still on his team. How is that Team Wimp Ass?
Well, that just shows
Soul,
you.
Let's be honest. Soul beat the stranger. Soul beat the Keymaster. He beat Chimere. He didn't kill him because of this great question the show asks this week. Like, hey, we're fighting on the battlefield, and somehow it's okay to kill me then. But like an hour later, when I'm, out for a swim, you can't kill me there because it's dishonorable and it's revenge. I think that is a bit tough. If on a battlefield, that I don't even think it's fair to call last week a battlefield, but if Chimere attacks and kills all your friends, I don't care if it's an hour later. He deserves justice, and that means slicing and dicing him up.
Well, what?
The Jedi said that would be revenge, and so it is odd. I agree. I almost agree with him in that case.
Maybe Soul's only following that path because before he killed witches when they weren't fighting. And the fact that you would not call that ground strewn with murdered bodies a battlefield is really
it's a killing field.
There was a battle. Even though it was 1 on a dozen, it was still a battle.
Hold on. Let me go even further. Let me go even further, though, Catfish.
Go further.
You're asking, how can I support Soul if seemingly, and it really does seem like, he did something that led to the death of all these witches? Well, you should never reveal too much about yourself on the internet, but I always do reveal that I am related to historical figure Cotton Mather, who is famous for burning witches in Salem witch trials. And so I feel like supporting Saul killing these witches is my family heritage.
Wow, Bubba.
Killing witches is strong in my family. My father, my great.
I'll only be able to discuss my lineage on the Babylon Berlin podcast.
No. Okay, let's skip.
All right, a listener, the Lowdown Show said Team Osha. She's going full Sith. Yes, and we love it. We love it.
Okay, you know what? I've rambled for so long, but now that we had a listener say that they were on Team Osha, I have to agree. Okay, let's go full Sith. You've convinced me. Loadout Show. Let's do this.
I love it. I'm tired of seeing the boring heroes, where the only people I dislike on the shows are the bratty children.
Oh my goodness gracious!
All right, Bubba. So let's start with Osha and the stranger, also known as Chimere.
All right. So Osha, in the very first episode, we meet her as she wakes up, and the camera did this, kind of tilt and turn with her, and wakes up with her. She's in a cave. Her wound has been healed. She is like, where the F am I? I was just in a jungle. What's going on? I was about to arrest my sister, and it all fell apart. She can see that things and clothes have been laid out seemingly for her. There's this cute, it's still Star Wars. So somehow, even in all this darkness, we have to have cute little moments. So we have this space little aardvark who gets frightened and runs away. And this was actually practical puppets. They keep showing these little creatures. And according to StarWars.com, they're called Sakura. The creature is a Sakura, and in the script, the Sakura are described as part aardvark, part duck. You think they got that across? I thought that was pretty good.
That is pretty good. They were chittering. They were chittering creatures.
May leaves the cave. She's on a beach. She is on this romantic beach, as you said, Catfish. Apparently a beach in real life near Portugal or off the coast of Portugal.
It is
beautiful.
And
she sees Chimere, the guy who has just murdered a lot of people. And if I forget if she saw this part or not, but did swing his sword at as her sister. He was attacking her sister. And so she follows him up. And what do you do when you know you're being tracked by somebody who may want to kill you? Well, obviously now we know that the police recommend stripping naked and going swimming in the ocean.
Hell yes. When you are packing the lightsaber that the Keymaster is.
Wait a minute. Okay, well, let's get to this. He's obviously in shape, this Keymaster. They're showing his scarred up back. Catfish, maybe we aren't the best to talk about this, but did Lady Catfish see this display of beefcake? Do we have a female thought on Chimere cleaning up real good?
She didn't say anything specific about him. I don't know if he's her type. at this moment.
Wait a minute. She loves guys who are all in shape and beefed up. Look at yourself. Come on, go to a mirror.
Look, Lady Catfish has eyes for only one thing on this show. And that's our boy Baz.
Oh, that's cute. Okay, I like that. Now, once again, Chimere, the stranger, the keymaster, he's completely naked. He's swimming, and then Osha grabs his lightsaber. Wait a minute. What? Hold on. Adult content. And he responds, feels good, doesn't it? To hold one in your hand again. Bow.
We're talking about the lightsaber, right?
I mean, dear Lord. Now, I wrote in the show notes, this was my thought watching it. I said, okay, yes, I understand this being seduced by the dark side. However, if for whatever reason Osha kills Chimere while he's naked, that would be the most pitiful Sith death ever. You know, we've had Sith cut in two, thrown down shafts, but to have decapitated, but to be naked and then just have, to have somebody grab your own lightsaber and say, hey, feels good, doesn't it? And then she kills you. You would not want that on the tombstone. You would not want that in the obituary.
I'm not worried about anything here.
Okay.
There's a later scene that I was like, but this one, he's caught her unaware.
Okay.
Let's just say that. She's a little off kilter, especially, yes, him walking out of the water and she's like, okay, well, he's dangerous, so I got to keep an eye on him. But, and he's like, eyes up here, girl.
Well, I don't know. Maybe if he's seducing, he's like, look at the six-pack, eyes down there, whatever he wants to do. This character, who we're now, once again, the show is calling the stranger, he says, I was a Jedi a long time ago. How old? What do you think's going on here?
Right. This is what I wonder. Well, Bubba, if we've learned anything new from this show, The Acolyte, is that creatures of all kinds, humans and all aliens, live for hundreds of years without changing. So that was a curious one for me as well. I mean, we saw Palpatine. How old was Palpatine when he looked like utter garbage? Like his face was melting off of his bones.
I think he was only supposed to be 60 or 70. Well, hold on. He was probably 50s or 60 in The Phantom Menace. Then you jump forward. So let's say he was 60. That's a bit old, but we'll say he was 60 in The Phantom Menace. Then 10 years to Attack of the Clones. That gets him to 70. Then I think it's maybe 3 years to Revenge of the Sith. So 73. And then you're right. A little Force lightning and his face melts off. And he looks real bad. Bad.
I guess my point is, just double checking with you that there is no canon in Star Wars, except for what we've seen in this show, for people to maintain a certain age for, let's say, 100 years. I mean, we do know.
Well, they're aliens.
Well, the aliens, right? Well, we know Grogu and Yoda. But Grogu's just a tween at 50.
That's true.
So the question is he, the way he says it, is he really old? Is he like 100? What's the deal?
Wonderful question.
And it's already a little weird here just because, the seduction part of it feels a little weird, only because the girls, I'm sure that the actress playing this is like early to mid 20s.
I would assume so.
But they're playing them like not yet 18. At least it feels that way.
Well, hold on. No, it's been 16 years at least since they were the twins on Brendok. So they would be, even the characters on the show, I'm pretty sure are got to be in their mid 20s.
22. Okay, that's fine. All right, so that's okay. But if it was like 100 and 22 versus 22, it would still be weird. But she's feeling it, and he is. I will say this, he has got a mantra to himself, and that's basically like, look, you have to stop looking at the world the way the Jedi do, where they say, this is the way things work, you have to follow the way we do it, or you're completely wrong, or you're a bad person. He is all about the id, man. He's just like, feel what you feel, and it is okay. It is groovy, man.
So which part of his talk did you agree with or get tempted by? I'm going to read some of them. He's like,
okay,
you should use these powerful emotions: anger, fear, loss, desire. Then he's talking about the Jedi. Why do you love people who can only go so far? The Jedi could never truly love you back because they're supposed to be, avoiding attachments that can, bring up these feelings like anger, fear, loss, and desire. She says, he asks her, why aren't you a Jedi? She says, because I failed. And so he said, he's pretty much saying, you didn't fail. You were yourself. And the Jedi's rules say that's not cool. You being yourself with these emotions, with this fear, with this loss, that's not good. And he had a line that really spoke to me. He says, when you lose everything, that's when you're finally free. And I thought,
is he talking about his clothes?
No, I thought he was talking about my football team, the Atlanta Falcons. He's like, when you lose everything, you're finally free.
No. Oh my God.
So what of those messages appeal to you, Catfish? Which of those messages would make you turn to the dark side?
It's this one, and there was a little extra added to yours. So I won't say my paraphrasing of it is, why do you love people the way they are when they don't love you the way you are?
No, I love that. No, that's great.
Yeah.
And it really does, when you say it like that, it really does paint the Jedi in a terrible light. Now, of course, the things he likes to do. Once again, I keep saying that, he's like, hey, I just want to be me, a psychopath murderer,
right,
filled with hatred.
Right.
Why can't I just be me?
Right. He's like, May didn't buy into the whole process. All she was interested in was killing 4 specific Jedi. Right. Boring. Let's go.
Why limit yourself?
Let's go deeper with those emotions. And this scene here where she had the lightsaber up to him. Mm-hmm. That was where I was wondering why she didn't go far, only because he was really pushing her emotionally.
Yes, you're right. And it's like he wants 2 things. He wants her to draw on those emotions, that anger too, draw on those emotions, but only to a certain point where he doesn't get killed.
Right, exactly.
Like if he died, do you think, and admittedly, sometimes they say the Sith are like that. If he died, do you think he'd go, victory, success?
Finally, I pissed somebody off so much.
You tapped into your anger.
Now, Bubba, we had talked about this last week. Why is he this way? Right. I theorized that there were other pockets of groups like the Witches' Coven that the Jedi were cleaning out, and he was from one of those.
It feels like that could be it.
This week, he seems to indicate not only is it another pocket, but it's a pocket that has the same beliefs as the witches, because he says, she's like, what are you interested in? And he says the power of 2. And Bubba, it has, I have a horrible memory, and it has been 5 episodes since season 1, but I don't think I will ever forget the power of 2, because they must have said it 75 times in 5 minutes. So he seems like at least was kind of reared in the same kind of ideology that Osha was reared in.
Yes, but we've got to find this out. It's so funny. The show has made us obsessed with what exactly happened at the Witch Coven. Saul did something. Saul has such guilt. We want to know. But you're right. The stranger, what is his deal? We want to know that now, too. What's your deal, man? He's saying he got a scar on the back from a Jedi, from a master. Notice he doesn't say Jedi master, but he said he got it from a master. He knows so much about what happened at the Witch Coven. There is a chance that it certainly feels like next week, Saul's going to finally tell us what he did, what happened at the Witch Coven. But there's a part of me that wonders if, we always have these kind of follow both twins, if we also are going to hear a bit from Chimere about what he did at the Witch Coven. There's got to be something there, is what I'm thinking.
All right. Well, and my supposition is whatever group he was with was cleared out, just like the Coven.
No, that could totally be it.
All right. And then, Bubba, interesting thing here, he doesn't just seem. He says the power of 2 here, but I got the feeling last week and this week. Look, he wants to be a master.
Yes.
Okay. And what is the absolute minimum requirement to be a master. You must have a pupil.
That's right.
Right? So that's why he's like, all right, didn't work with May. Let me go with Osha. You can't be a master without a pupil. But he adds to it this week by saying the power of 2. Maybe he means the power of 1, and then 1.
A backup, right? You always carry a spare. That's his motto.
Support squad. The power of 2. I am 1 and you are 2.
Hey, the episode ends with Osha trying on the helmet. This is not good for the good guy squad. What do you think?
No, but this is good for my squad. It wasn't until she was looking closely that I realized that it's a good thing that Marvel is also owned by Disney, because this is a blatant ripoff of the Venom mask. So I am looking forward to this, opening herself up to the Force, finding out more.
Yep.
I am not just, look, a lot of people, he says later on in this episode, she's like, you're talking about the dark side. Osha does. And his reply to her is semantics. Now, I know that if you look at it from one side, that really is sort of an excuse. But I really think that this show is asking us to ask that question. Is the Jedi way the only way?
Only way.
And if you don't do the Jedi way, do you deserve to be cleaned out?
There's only one way to correctly apply the paddles for somebody who's had a heart attack. But you know what? Chimere says I can go my own way. So heart attack victim, get ready.
All right, well, boom. That was the end of the episode. So now, wait. We've got a whole nother storyline, and that is our girl May and Soul, and also our boy Baz. Soul takes off from how far, Bubba? Kofar.
Oh, man. He's been beaten. He's been bruised.
Oh, yeah.
He looks like me after recording a podcast with you. He's doing rough. He tries to report in. He's got, bad cell service there. The main thing he keeps trying to tell him is the whole team is dead. Hello. The whole team is dead. May is walking through this ship. And now this is just a fun fact that StarWars.com tells us, is that the ship is named Polan, Polan, after a friend of creator Leslye Headland, who died right before the show was going to begin. So she named the Jedi ship after him. And as May is walking through the ship, she remembers her test about, okay, we've got something on the iPod. Tell us what we're seeing. And she goes, well, the reflection in your eyes looks like a ship. Cheater, Sith, get out of here. and my boy Basil can smell something. He can smell something.
You know who else can smell something, Bubba? Miss Catfish was smelling something.
Really?
I have never heard her so, I would say, really disgusted by a show. Because she was like, how would Soul not know that it was Osha?
Right.
But now I was going to give him, I said to her right away, I said, look, it gives a little bit of a pass from me. He did know her, but it wasn't until the beginning of this show that they reunited. And
right. He hasn't seen her in years.
In a number of years. But then I thought, Bubba, I mean, isn't the whole deal with the Force is like being able to like suss out people's emotions? Like, so that doesn't make sense to me, because I can see May projecting anger, hate.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if he can't see it with the Force, that's a little. So I'm glad he found out, even though it seems like once again he got told and didn't figure it out himself.
Well, I think you're 100% right, but I think for me as a viewer, and this is just the way I took it, when I saw that emotion on Saul's face, when I see the regret, the pain, it's like that's blocking him. Why do the Jedis always say you got to be so, kind of emotionless and not have fear and pain and anger and this stuff so you can connect with the Force? And so when I see his face, when I see him emotionally struggling, that's the only way I think you can say, hey, okay, how could I confuse this person who is definitely not Osha? That's right. I mean, I read it.
May says something like that herself later on in the episode, that your emotions can kind of cloud your logic. But yeah, I was like, I was pretty much like, I mean, he's going to figure it out by the end of this episode anyway, because unless our boy Baz got, but that didn't happen.
Oh boy, it almost happened. Saul is coming clean. Like I said, he's got so much emotion. He's telling this character, who we're not sure if he knew it was May or not yet, he says, it's time for me to face the High Council, to tell them everything.
Right. And May goes, everything, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
And so sure enough, it's this line you were just talking about. Saul is he's so struck by how did this person come and kill his whole team and do all these things. He's like, how could I have not sensed that villain's true intentions? And to me, when he says this line, he does know it's May. It's almost like, how did I not sense your true intentions? But who knows? Because she repeats back to him just what you said, Catfish. When you really want something, it can cloud your mind.
Now, Bubba, before we get into the rest of this, I just want to go back to your thing. So you're not sure when Saul figured it out. I think it was only before he came in and zapped May and that Baz told him. So this is funny that it is that we just have to have different interpretations of that. So I'm wondering if people want to comment, when do they think and how do they think Saul figured it out?
No, I think that's a great question. He does. You know, we have this, I got to say, this breaks my heart because I'm such a Basil fan. I'm in the Baz batch. But Basil fixes Pip, and I think, okay, the cute little droid and the cute furry hamster are going to defeat this evil May. I've seen Scooby-Doo and Shaggy have a better attempt to take down a villain than this. This was pathetic. This was, Basil, you broke my heart with this pathetic attempt. Now, Pip, you are so small.
Baz did his best.
His best stinks. He needs to train with Chimere.
He's only like
to get
20
some skills.
inches tall.
Come on. I'm saying, look how small Pip is. Pip blinded her for a bit. While she's blinded, Basil, that's when you bring out the heavy artillery. Grab a damn wrench and start.
Heavy artillery. I think you are confused as to Baz's. You are overestimating Baz's abilities here.
I want Basil to be a badass. Come on, Basil. I want him to be a Tarantino character in Love with Violence. Like, now that May's strapped to the table, we're going to do a little bit of Mr. Was it Mr. Blonde? Who was the one who was so violent?
Yes.
Basil's
no,
going to
we
come
can't
in.
have that. We're going to turn Basil's cute little music into the demonic music. Now, look. So she says before she gets knocked out, he's like, have you told me everything that happened on Brendock? And that was where I saw a little something in Soul, because, and I don't know whether it was there. Possibly some people might think it was there because he kept telling her he was going to tell her everything that happened, and maybe, but I don't even know now, Bubba. And then he decides to warp the F out of there because he hears that people are coming. And so he's got a plan to do something else. Now, Bubba, let me tell you something.
Let's hear it.
I am very pleased that he chose that moment to warp, because a split second later, Vernestra warps into that same exact spot. Okay?
Sure.
So if he had been there, we would have had Jedi space soup in that sector. Boom.
Well, if that was the odd twist that the show was going to be, he's like, okay, May, you're strapped to the table. Let me tell you exactly what happened in Brendock. Is Saul, and I'm not sure the show has given us any clear indication of this, but Saul is going to say exactly what happened. Do you think in any way he's going to tell the story differently because he's telling it to May versus telling it to Osha, meaning telling it to the young woman? He still cares about May, but he's telling it to the young woman who he knows killed two of his friends versus telling Osha, the girl he did train with for years and the one he does have this emotional attachment to. Or it doesn't matter which twin it is, he's going to say the exact truth. What do you think?
I've got two options. One is he's been ready to unburden himself.
Yeah, well, that's true. 100%.
May looks close enough to Osha, so he's just going to burn himself. The other one is, to be honest with you,
yeah,
it might be easier to tell to May because May already thinks something bad happened and has already gotten revenge for it. So he can come totally clean to her. He doesn't have to hem and haw the way he have to with Osha. Like, okay, so look, like we killed them all, but we kind of didn't mean it.
Well, what if he hates May so much because she did kill his friends? What if he goes the other way and says, I was sent to Brendok because there was this really bratty kid there who was starting fires and lying on Jedi tests. And the council wanted me to just kill her because she's evil. And I regret the day that she didn't die all these years later.
He does seem unhinged.
Poor Saul. Once again, I don't care what you did, Saul. You're still a hero in my eyes.
Nope.
Oh, come on. All the witches, R.I.P. witches, tough luck. Catfish, there is another little bit of the show we need to talk about, and that is a character who, because I dislike this character so much at the beginning, I'm going to say is improving in small steps each time, and that's CSI Vernestra Rwoh. This, she's there, she's at the Jedi Temple, she's talking with a senator named Chewant, and if you know all the Easter eggs about why this senator is named Chewant,
I do not.
Okay, well, this is absolutely ridiculous. If you know the film director J.J. Abrams, what is J.J. Abrams? He's a huge fan of the Beastie Boys. So he created a brand new alien in The Force Awakens, and he named the alien species Abendigo, after a Beastie Boys song. It became a rule that anytime you use this alien, they're given names based off of Beastie Boys songs. So we had one called Slow and Low, and this one, his last name is Chewant. Do you want to guess what his first name is?
Get what?
No, it's I said what you want. So his first name is I said what is his first name. I said what, and his last name is Chewant.
Horrible.
Brilliant. But okay, ignore this senator because he's kind of like a Jedi-friendly senator. But we find out there's another senator named Rayancourt who, once again, wants to put the Jedi Order in an audit. He wants under an external review. And this good guy senator, Chewant, he's like, the Jedis are always transparent with the Senate.
Bro, this is some serious corporate restructuring, and also some investigation. Some people may get called up. This is not going to be good. Bubba, let me just say quickly, it's funny that you're feeling this way about Vernestra.
Mm-hmm.
I'm disappointed with the character because I thought the more we saw of her, the more we would see different sides. But yes, we're just seeing it's the completely CSI. What did you see here? Don't say anything.
It's a CSI that doesn't want to get audited, so it does have a bit of shading, and that's what I like. Now, there's this Padawan named Mog Adana who comes in and pretty much says, the transmission from Seoul broke up, but there was one message quite clear. Everybody, they gone. The whole team, they gone. So they go to hyperspace, they get there. The locals are blaming the Uber Moths. Talk about the most innocent creatures who did nothing. Uber Moths should be, the Uber Moths tell all. We did nothing. Stop blaming us. And they show us, cut to the chase. Oh, you thought Jackie might somehow still be alive? She gone. You thought Yord? No, there he is dead. There's Kalnaka dead.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Vernestra can feel what's happened, something changing the balance.
Also Mog could feel it.
Yeah.
He was like, there was a battle.
How about this? Mog, he sees them dead with lightsabers. He's like, well, who else do I know was here with the lightsaber? Master Saul, maybe he did. What? Now, even Mog is like, well, but he did call in and say they were all dead. So you don't think if he had done it, he would have done that.
Right. But now that Saul has sold the F off, I wonder if he will get blamed. They'll try to blame him. I don't know. They're all going to have to cover things up. The only thing that I'm glad about is that Vernestra says, let's give these bodies a decent burial. Finally, somebody's going to pick these guys up before the Uber moth all over them.
Listen, as Jackie said, there's no greater thing than being one with the Force. And you could be one with the Force and one in the Uber moth's belly, too. It's win-win. Just leaving them out here. Oh, okay. So that is the episode. We are,
that was it.
Listeners, Catfish is giving you some good questions. We want to know and hear from you on social media, Twitter, Threads, Instagram, Facebook at Double PHQ. YouTube, give us a like. We need them. Subscribe. We need it. Write your comments down below.
There are prizes at stake here, people.
Let's go, peeps. So Catfish, apparently it's time for the one thing Disney Plus didn't do in my screening of this episode. Didn't have any sponsorships in them. So what are we going to do first?
God. All right, Bubba, the missed sponsorship opportunity of the week.
Yeah.
Hollywood Forever Cemetery.
Oh.
When your nearest and dearest are killed on another planet and you care enough to not let them rot away there, bury them in Hollywood Forever Cemetery. It's forever.
No, I think this was a great sponsorship opportunity for Fox News. You know, the Fox News headline would be Uber moths destroying Uber moths crossing our borders and killing our Jedi.
Why do the Democrats want to give away free stuff to the Uber moths?
Yes, listen, they want us to, not destroy nature. We want to tear down this forest and put up a factory. Look at what not tearing down the forest has done. That's my pitch for. All right,
Bubba, this is so great. I want to do this. People, now we got our listeners. They're pitching it now. This is great. Get it to us before we do the podcast, and we will include yours. This is from a good friend, Tim's Retro Corner. Sponsorship deal of the week. Lightsabers by L'Oreal, because you're worth it. No, because we're worth it. I blew it.
You're worth it, but then you're worthless because the stranger just 3-hole punched you. Oh, thank you, Tim's Retro Corner. Everybody, that's how you do it. That's how you make look. It's not hard to look better than us, but excellent work, Tim. You did it. Now, we didn't have any listeners give us the next segment we like to do, Catfish, the Himbo move of the week.
All right, Bubba, look, I'm just going to start this off, and I'm going to say, shut it down, Bubba.
What?
We have the Himbo move of the season.
Oh, here we go. Okay,
the Keymaster shows why he is the master when he full-on walks out of the ocean naked, showing that even without clothes, he still has an incredible lightsaber. This is a full-on mic and other things drop.
Catfish, Bubba? I can't believe you forgot the most important Himbo move of the week.
Tell me.
I can't believe you forgot it. Well, what is one thing that women have had to deal with all their lives in this terrible society of ours? Men coming up and touching them, men touching them in ways they don't want to be touched. And what did Basil do to May's leg? Total Himbo move. Just grabbing a lady's leg without her permission. Consent is important, Basil. So Basil, the Himbo move of the week.
Wow, Bubba. All right, well, Bubba, why don't you talk about the Han Solo comedy moment of the week? The one moment that was funny in this episode.
The funny moment in this episode? Yeah, we all have different senses of humor, and so I will say that it wasn't laugh out loud funny, but I would say the fact that Chimere got out totally nude and pulled an Austin Powers, that is my solo comedy moment of the week. I couldn't come up with one. Let's hear it. What do you got?
Bubba, well, look, I came up with two, but it depends on your idea of comedy.
Okay.
I already said one of them, the dark comedy moment of the week, with Osha saying that's the path to the dark side, and Chimere saying semantics.
Semantics.
But the light comedy moment of the week, and Double M, Matt Murdock is going to talk about it in his musical analysis. Baz creeping around with that delightful Baz's theme. That's not the way that it goes, but in my mind, that's the way it goes. That was adorable. His bounce back bash was adorable. That's what I. That's what I. Yeah. Okay.
Chimer's got to learn from Basil. Even Basil was wearing clothes. Chimera, bad job.
Yeah, well, that's because when Baz looks in the mirror naked, he's like, I have to put my clothes back on.
Wear some pants, Baz. All right. What Jedi should be added to May's hit list this week? We like to say May wanted to kill 4 Jedi, but maybe her list was too short. Do you have anybody who should be added to May's hit list this week? And it can be in the show, or sometimes we like to be evil and say in real life. Who should be on May's hit list this week, Catfish?
Well, Bubba, this is going to sound very like a plain answer, but I haven't said it so far. Who should she put on her kill list?
Who?
The original 4th person on her kill list. Kill Soul, put him and us out of our misery.
No. I told you, I don't care what Saul did. Saul could say,
I
went a little, at this point, Saul could say, I went a little Hitler, and I'll be like, it's okay. Walk it off. We all do.
Oh, my God. We are totally opposed on Saul here. Okay, Bubba.
Yeah.
Which Jedi or which person in real life are you going to put on May's kill list this week?
Well, this is, once again, I was just making a joke about Fox News. We are in presidential election season now at the time of recording for here on the Parsec Passion podcast in 2024. And so recently I've heard the song, I Get Knocked Down and I Get Up Again. You're never going to knock me down, about candidates. Oh, they tried to lock me up is what Trump's saying. So he plays it. Or Biden's like, I had a bad debate. And so he's playing. And so for that, the person I'm putting on May's hit list is Chumbawamba, because their song, I was never a fan of it. And I always sang my own version of it anytime it came on the radio. I'd say, I get knocked down and I stay down. You're never going to get me up. I get knocked down and I go to sleep. I want to sleep on the ground. And so for the fact that I keep having to hear this song, which I hate so much, Chumbawamba, May is going to be coming to your Wumba real soon.
Okay. All right.
Hey, Catfish, we got a new segment this week, and that is a helmet hate-off.
Okay.
There are so many classic helmets. It certainly goes back to, well, the first one we saw ever in the world was actually a Stormtrooper helmet as they came through Princess Leia's Rebel runner there in A New Hope. But right after that, we had Darth Vader. We've had Stormtroopers, Snow Troopers, Speeder Troopers. We've had Mandalorians like Mando, Boba Fett, Bo-Katan. We've had in the sequel trilogy, we had Kylo Ren. Now we have the Stranger, aka the Keymaster's helmet. Catfish, which one do you love? What's the coolest design? And which one do you hate? And which one would be the best to wear? If you had to wear one, what would you wear? Let's hear your helmet thoughts.
Do you know what even though my favorite is still the OG trilogy, I have always dug, and I mean, this is just, you have to say besides Darth Vader, right? I mean, Darth Vader, but yeah. Kylo Ren's, I love Kylo Ren's helmet. I've always dug his helmet. The helmet that I hate
let's hear it.
is that just weird. It seems like it would be bulky. The big red helmet.
Oh, that the Emperor's Royal Guards do, the Imperial Guards, the red.
Those seem like a real pain in the butt to wear. What about you, Bubba?
I always hated the Clone Trooper helmet. Now, Lucas, when he decided that Jango Fett was going to be the source of all the clones, he made the original Stormtrooper, or as they were known at the time, Clone Trooper helmet, look like a cross between an old Stormtrooper helmet and a Mandalorian helmet. And so it has this weird almost X where the mouth should be, and it had a fin on it. I was never a fan of that one. Like you, Kylo Ren's helmet, I did kind of like. I even liked it better in The Rise of Skywalker, where he put it back together and it had those cool red lines going through it. Mm-hmm. And so which one would I want to wear? Well, I definitely, even though I think it looks cool, I don't want to wear the Keymaster's helmet, mainly because you can't see anything out of it. It's like, how am I going to walk around and do anything?
You don't need to. It's just like Luke closing his eyes. The Force.
That is what it's like. That is what it's like. But for my favorite, and I actually think you probably see the most out of it, I would go with Boba Fett or Mando's helmet, because even though the eye slits are small, they do seem to give you a bit of peripheral vision, and you do have that big space that goes down the front of your face. So I think
I don't know,
if I had to wear one, that's the one I go with.
There's no doubt within 10 minutes of me wearing this helmet, I'm going to knock the little antenna thing off. There's just no doubt.
Listeners,
all right, Bubba. Yeah. Tell us which is your favorite helmet, which ones you want to wear, and why you hate Soul as well. I'm sorry. Okay, so before we go any further, we're about to get to you, but before that, we have to get to the Quintuple M.
Quintuple M.
Yeah, Matt Murdock's Acolyte musical analysis.
A whole lot of neat things about last week's episode and this week's episode. And of course, we have to talk about the most important piece of music integrated into this episode that we've heard before as well. But let's start with last week just a little bit. We did hear a little bit of Cairo Lynn's theme as Kaimar approached Osha. The showrunner is being very cryptic about what that means, but perhaps we're not actually seeing the return of the Sith, but rather the birth of the Knights of Ren. Again, Maru_Mara76 has been keeping track of this, and I love them for it. The showrunner basically said, I can't tell you what that means yet. You'll just have to see. So I'll leave most of the speculating to Bubba and Catfish. Also, an update on the theme that we were tracking last week in my massive musical analysis. It did appear this week right as Osha was holding the lightsaber to Kaimar. And it had a little bit of a darker tone, but it hasn't really changed anything in the context because it's still about the relationship between her and Saul, as she says it fails. No need to go through all of that again, because we have to get to the most important character of this whole story's theme. So important that it was simply entitled Basil's Theme in the official soundtrack, Volume 1 by Michael Abels. And the meat of this theme sounds like this. Now, this theme almost seems playful, right? Let's talk about why it seems playful. First of all, harmonically, it goes between two different chords that typically aren't derived from the same scale, an F minor chord and an A minor chord. But you might have heard that despite the fact that the other two notes changed, I didn't have to change the top note. That top note is present in both chords, and that's the connecting thread that allows you to bounce back and forth between keys and not seem too startling, but just a little off-kilter, which is exactly what Basil is, right? The other element of this is the fact that all of these notes are short. There's lots of space in between them. Even if they're moving fast, you can still hear the space in between the notes. That's what we call staccato, and staccato always generates feelings of playfulness or at least excitement. And that's why Basil seems so quirky. And it's also a great technique just to endear you to a situation, such as Basil's situation is. There are other chord changes in there, but they're really just kind of a development thing in order to get us back to that last home key again of F minor. And it's very well constructed because it's also done in kind of almost a call and response way. The top notes kind of seemingly always go down. The bottom notes go up a lot. But sometimes when the top notes stay static, then the bottom notes fall back off. It's like they're kind of playing with each other. It gives you that sensation of playing. And that's one of the things that, besides his wonderful appearance and his heroic actions, makes Basil so endearing to us. And hear me when I say, perhaps the most important character in Star Wars history. Back to Bubba and Catfish.
Well, I have got to say, I do not usually agree with Double M Matt Murdock, but he has got it right this week. Baz makes the Ewoks look like grumpy old men. And it even made me think, how did I not realize that the Ewoks are grumpy old men saying, get off my lawn, /planet.
Yes.
He is the cutest and greatest Star Wars character. So I agree with Matt when he says that Baz is perhaps the most important. Wait, he said he was perhaps the most important? Yeah. No, that is wrong. It is time for Triple M, Bubba.
Triple M.
Yeah, Matt Murdock's medications.
Right, cuter than Grogu. I mean, come on, Basil's great, but maybe next week we'll have a cute off.
He said most important. I don't.
Right, yeah, I know.
That was perhaps some hyperbole there. All right,
Perhaps.
Bubba.
Yeah.
We have feedback from this week's episode. That is episode 6.
Ooh. Hey, Camille at Harley Camille on Twitter also gave this episode 8 out of 10 like you did, Catfish, but she did it on the double S scale.
Double S?
Seducing Sith.
Yeah.
Keep your daughters away from seducing Sith, people. Camille wrote, I am annoyed we didn't get many answers to all the secrets. Master Saul, tell us what you did.
Oh my God. And Link Hogthrob at Matt's Test Lab 1 says, not double S's, triple S's.
Triple S's.
Seductively swimming Sith. Bubba, if you have a bell, we got to ring it. That is the same. I was hoping that May Osha would have joined in, but that might be more adult than Disney wanted. There was definitely some sexual tension going on here. All right, Bubba. Our friend Tim Retro's Corner kicked us off with some episode 5 feedback. Bubba, go ahead.
Tim said, all right, I was wrong. We were double bluffed. The Q Master turned out to be Darth Venom, although the Sith never revealed themselves as Sith, except, hey, this one time. Then logically, he's lying and can't be a Sith. Oh, this is so smart. How do you know I'm not a Sith? Because I said I was a Sith. Very good, Tim. I love it. Tim says of episode 5, there were definitely some good bits in the episode. I like that they killed off main cast people and not just the red shirts. It upped the stakes. Although it would have been better if we'd actually had some decent character moments in the previous episodes so we felt invested in them. Tim, I can only speak for myself. I did feel invested in Jackie. You know, she did have a little heart-to-heart with Osha. And Yord was just so silly that I connected with him either way, too. Tim continues, the lightsaber battle in episode 5 was well done in general, but at times felt undisciplined, especially for Jedi Masters, or at least fully trained one. Jackie, he says she died an honorable warrior's death, but Yord died of disobedience. Oh, man, not following orders. And he loved following orders. Man, that is a tough way for Yord to go. Oh, man. Had Yord survived, he'd been up for what we like to call an interview without cookies, walking off and leaving everybody dead. But those are the orders. Now, Tim did have some problems. He said this show, they spent $180 on it. There's a team of writers, and they end the battle with the bad guy carried off by giant moths and a kick me sign on his back. I mean, that's the best he can come up with. Now, Tim, I'm going to disagree. I actually kind of thought that was a classic way to get rid of him. If you're going to try to say that Saul is really going to be hardcore about these Jedi rules and not kill somebody without a weapon, then how do you get rid of them? I thought the moths was okay, but that's each for everybody in their own. He says if they had combined episode 4 and 5 into one 45-minute episode, then he said that would have been the best. And there I do agree with you, Tim, 100%. He said his prediction for this episode we just watched is that Basil gets the chop. Oh, he thought Basil was going to die because he thought he was the only character who could identify May. May has to kill Saul, and then she's completed her original mission. She had one job. She does it. Job done. The end. Move on to season 2. That's Tim's thoughts. I love all those thoughts, Tim. I disagreed with some, but the fact that you said them, that means they're smarter than mine. I love them. Hey, Catfish, you look frozen. Are you there? Oh, no. Catfish is totally frozen. Catfish, are you there? Okay, now you maybe aren't frozen. I can't hear you. Maybe I'm frozen. Okay, you know what? I will read through the rest of these comments just because I think Catfish is gone. I'll go ahead and say Zephyr Cat, who is a great listener, said, I liked episode 5 the best so far. The choreography with the lightsaber battle was kind of amazing. The triple jab kill of Jackie had me yelling at the TV because I couldn't believe they'd kill a Padawan. I'm glad they did some bold moves by killing so many major characters, but they better not kill Basil. One thing that also took me out of it was the fake-looking trees. All that Disney money, and they couldn't afford to shoot in a real forest. Zephyr Cat, I wanted to talk about this for a bit, if that's okay. And that, yes, they spent a lot of money on this show, and yes, this forest doesn't look real. The thing that I thought when I read this really smart feedback of yours is that if you watch The Force Awakens, that is also a fake forest. That at the end, the snow battle between Kylo Ren and and Ray. That's set in a fake forest, but that forest is meant to look like one on Earth. So I think it doesn't stand out as, oh, this is a fake forest. Plus, the fact is they shot that on film, and film is more forgiving. I can tell watching this show, they shoot it on digital video, which is, of course, what Lucas wanted to do with his sequel trilogy. And he shot Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith on digital video, not actual film. And what's funny is that Lucas loves it, but it is not forgiving. So if you have a set, the detail in the digital video, I think, makes it more obvious that it's a set. So that's me. Sorry you didn't like that one thing. We had feedback from Big on Twitter, who just said twins, Basil, twins. Dan on our Facebook page gave episode 5 7 double J's out of 10. Now, wait a minute. Double J's? Oh, Jettison Jedi. For me, the series comes down to the fact that I'm really just double A. Amicably ambivalent about the double T's, the tumultuous twins. Dan, I actually think that is kind of the one thing that's holding me back a bit too. And we had the Keymaster who said this is a sick episode 5. Glad you guys felt this one as much as me. I appreciate the nitpicks that you guys do on the Parsec Passion podcast. Y'all are great. Oh, well, you're great for giving us that feedback. We had Null Chess Channel on Twitter or YouTube, I believe this was, said the Keymaster doesn't make sense. Chimera won't be the true master of the entire series. Now, Catfish, who we have lost for a bit, he says Keymaster is a master, or at least he was until he tried to kill his pupil. If you count the number of people that have been called master throughout the Star Wars movies and shows, how many do we end up with? 10, 20 more? Whew, if you go the animated show, Catfish, I think you could have way more masters than that. All right, guys, that is it for this week. Next week, it's so weird to not have Catfish here. I think he can still hear me on this Skype call, but next week, we've got 2 episodes left. Next week, we gotta get the answers. Everybody's like, to hell with it. Forget everything. Tell us what happened on Brendock. I think we're going to get it next week. If you want to reach out to Catfish, you can reach him on Blue Sky and Instagram at G to the Man on those apps. That's GEETOTHEMAN. G to the Man on Blue Sky and Instagram. Hey, I'm Bubba. You can reach me on pretty much every social media app at Fittin Trim. That's FITTENTRIM at Fittin Trim on Twitter, Instagram, Threads, the usual. And you'll join us next time on Parsec Passion. Man, we need Catfish on this podcast.